So you've probably heard of minimalism, and odds are you probably know a little bit about it. Minimalism is a tool that can assist you in finding freedom. To many, minimalism is about cutting out what doesn't matter so that you can spend time, energy, and money on what does matter. This has implications for a lot of people on both physical and non-physical levels, but for me, minimalism is a fancy way of saying that since I live on the road, I don't want to carry a bunch of stuff. And that's the gist of it. Not collecting and keeping a bunch of stuff that you don't use. Which most of the time just means not buying stuff and not saving anything that I don't have to. Space is limited, and each extra pound adds weight, which adds gas money. So while I appreciate many of the philosophical and psychological benefits of minimalism, for me, and maybe you, it's a practical tool above all else. My very first video was about embracing minimalism and getting rid of all of my stuff, and I think that's actually the exact title of the video, so you can check that one out if you want to see it. It's actually pretty popular. I had been living in one-bedroom apartments for a while up to this point, all throughout college and work life up until then. You might think that it would be difficult to collect a lot of junk in a small space like that, and well, you'd be wrong. I had a ton of random garbage that I never used and just collected. There's many videos on YouTube about people feeling hesitant to get rid of their stuff. I luckily didn't have that problem. My collection of stuff won't fit in a camper van, so there was really no option there. And I wasn't about to spend more on a storage facility than what the stuff was actually even worth. You can also make some money selling your old stuff. I only sold the higher value items because I didn't really have time to sell everything. But if you want to make a little hobby of selling things on eBay, you can make some serious money just selling your old garbage. I mean, you know what they say.
One thing he taught me recently is that one man's garbage is another person's good on garbage, and I'm going to roll with that.
Minimalism helps you travel on your terms, finding the freedom to enjoy your trip without carrying a huge burden on your back, or without carrying a huge burden of stuff in your van. For minimalism with van dwelling, I think the common theme that you'll see people talk about is minimalism of cost. Living in a van is a good way to minimize how much it costs to live in an area. Like if you want to live in a big city, that's going to be super expensive apartment. While it is true that it would cost a little more in gas than it would if you probably drove a regular car, not having a car payment or paying rent cuts back on that living expense exponentially. One awesome tip I saw for seeing how much stuff you have that you don't actually need is traveling. Traveling always renews my sense of minimalism. The next time you take a trip, pack for only half of the time. If you're traveling for 4 days, pack for 2. You can wash and hang clothes if you need to, or sometimes wear the same thing twice if it's appropriate. Just see how it feels to carry less baggage. I know when I go on a trip or something, I always end up packing more than I need. I'll come back and, a couple of my shirts are still clean. Like, why did I even bring those? This is a quick tip. It's not so much minimalism, but it's one of the best things I've ever done with my life, and I'm only half joking. Throw out all of your socks. And then go to Walmart or wherever sells bulk socks, buy 2 packs or however many you want of the exact same socks. I save a significant portion of my time not trying to match my socks and finding missing ones. All of my socks are now the same. This is a serious life hack there. Now back to that packing tip. I packed what I thought would be 2 weeks of clean clothes in the van, and some alternate weather outfits like a bathing suit for the summer and some scarves for the winter. I can go 2 weeks without doing laundry, but there are some clothes that I just never even end up wearing, yet I carry them around. I think those are some prime examples of things that I don't need to carry with me, and something that you might find too if you do the same experiment. I'm going to have to do another purge of my stuff pretty soon. I've even seen some minimalist van dwellers who just have a mat to sleep on in their van and a little bit of storage boxes. Now my camper is certainly not to that extent. I mean, I've got mood lights and Wi-Fi in mine. But I think that's the key point here. There's no strict rules for minimalism. It's what you want it to be. Not everything has to be pure utility though. You can keep things that you like. There is no true minimalism code or a minimalism police force controlling what you do. You decide the rules of what kind of stuff you want. Here's a good example. I haven't played guitar in probably over 2 years, but I feel happy looking at it, and I feel good knowing that it's right there when I get a spark of inspiration. Zebra operates my camera. He's a stuffed animal that I carried around as a kid. I liked zebras because their name starts with a Z, and so did mine. It goes about that deep, yeah. He's not much utility other than a video prop now and then, but I like to keep them around. You keep the things that are meaningful and useful to you. One of my favorite benefits of reducing all my stuff and becoming more minimalism is that less stuff makes it easier to clean up. Your environment is a direct reflection of the mental state you're in while you're there. When you're in a new environment, you can feel the difference. When I go to a library, I'm fascinated by books and studying. And yes, that's partly because that's what's there, but it's also the energy there. It's where my mental state goes. Organize your local landscape. Schedule your time. Minimalism can help you take control of your life. If you want to change the world, you can start from yourself and move outwards. That's how you build your competence. I don't know how you can go out and march in the streets or attempt to build a big multinational business if you can't keep your room organized. And too many people want to control the outside of the world when their own inside world is a complete mess. It's the do as I say, not as I do sort of stuff. Minimalism can be one of the easiest ways to take back control in your life in a simple and very practical way. You can think of it as kind of a philosophy akin to Zen. The less things you have around you, the less space they take up in your mind, and the more flexible you can be in new situations. Everything you see in your immediate dwelling will take up space in your mind, albeit just for an instance. Having many things around begins to add up the mental cost. And I don't know about you, but at least for me, I feel kind of annoyed when things pile up on my desk because when I look at it, it's a flash of things that I have to do, errands that I have to run, etc. It all rushes through my mind, when I could be thinking about something else. Having a big mess is like an interruption to me. Not that we don't naturally experience such interruptions, but they can add up, and I think typically avoiding as much as you can by cleaning up your living space does a long way to make you mentally sound. If your office is a mess, it will reflect in your work. I know a lot of people don't believe that, but it's very subconscious, and 80% of our mind is subconscious. We're only aware of less than 10. I mean, never has there been a time in the history of the United States that people have been so unhappy. And of course, there's also people that are happy. I think the thing is that everything's so polarized now, at least in my estimation. When I observe myself and those around me, it seems like the people at their happiest are when they're with family, friends, nature, doing something they really love. It serves to lock them into the moment as much as possible. I think consumerism is used to kind of distract people from realizing how unhappy they really are much of the time. Now, don't confuse me saying this by thinking that I'm anti-capitalist, though. That's not true. Family and friends are often spread around the country these days. People are busier than ever with mostly unfulfilling pursuits like working at a desk job for some company doing auto insurance. I mean, there are a proud few people who make that their life's work. And I respect that, but I'm not one of them. It goes much deeper than just being told to buy a lot of stuff. There's a lot to be said on this topic, but I don't really know how to articulate it that well. For me, minimalism is about boiling things down to what's really important and getting rid as much noise as possible in my life. Well, what's next with the minimalism? Well, even now, after a year, I still have stuff in the camper van that I don't really use a lot, or that I've never even used. It's time to sort through and clean out some of my stuff. And this is one of my worst cabinets. Look, it's full of stuff. It's all loose and jangly. It's not great. I definitely need to get started on it. Anyway, thanks for hanging out with me today. If there's any more interest in this topic, I've got a lot I could cover, both practical advice and philosophical. Let me know if you've ever done anything minimalism, you've gotten rid of your stuff, you've done anything like that, or if you want to hear any more things about it.